Remember the Bruce Nauman Bound to Fail? With somebody sitting there with a rope around them? It was very perceptive, you're bound to fail. But nobody's forcing you to do this. Maybe it's time for us to start looking at art as if it's something that's presented and not imposed. I've always liked commercial galleries or doing things in the street better than museums. Why? Because when somebody goes in a museum that doesn't know anything about art, and they don't get something right away, they feel they're missing something. Somebody goes in a gallery, you don't have to pay money, you look at it, if you don't like it, you laugh and you walk out. Maybe the kid that you're dragging along with you sees something that they later put together in their life. I don't really care. I don't want to ruin somebody's day. I did these things called the manhole covers. I feel like I'm on sort of like a television show where they're saying, "Tell us your life again." And you're wishing, gee, maybe I could change it a little bit. Maybe instead of growing up in New York City, I'll grow up in Antwerp or something. It doesn't work because you don't know enough. And they were interviewing me for the manhole covers, and it was the New York City channel, which at that time was cable, so you can say anything you want. There was no restriction, no religious restrictions on language and things. And somebody said, you know, like you're an aggressive person, you're a New Yorker, I know who you are, da-da-da-da-da. How come this isn't that aggressive? And it was 19 manhole covers in the city that you saw, and I really believe that urban people in the city never look up to find out where they are, they look down. So the manholes put them there, and it was in line with another and the next. And I had to think, and I really wanted to make a response, and I couldn't think of any, and all I could answer was, because I was so angry at that time that people were doing confrontational art in the street. I didn't approve, and I thought of maybe, you know, I don't want to fuck up somebody's day when they're on their way to work. People's lives are hard enough, but I want to fuck up their whole life. And that's allowed as an artist, to set up a structure and a culture that allows people to start to think in a manner that maybe isn't the way they were supposed to think. That fucks up their life, but it might work. And that's all the reason for art. That's the only reason it exists. It has nothing to do with the market. It has nothing to do with giving somebody a thesis to write. Yeah, it's nice that they want to. History is fine. I like history. I read it. You really don't learn anything. What you do is you see what not to do. Or if you're foolish, you see what you're going to try to redo. And of course, the world is turned. Now you're supposed to bring me along. Do your job. This is an artist cooperative. I'm an artist. I need help.
No, as artists, you form the world.
No, you don't form the world. You set up a logic. You present something to people that allows them to form the world. Because how can you form the world for somebody who have absolutely no idea what their life is?
Then on the point about metaphor that you were talking about, that the people who are using your work, they are making their own metaphors.
That's how we use art.
Yes.
When you see a work of art that really speaks to you,
yes.
That you look at it, and maybe I'm a quick read, I'm a professional. I look at things, sometimes I like to go to exhibitions. I like to be in exhibitions, sometimes where you know what the premise is, but there's an artist or two you never heard of. Makes it interesting for you, it makes you a reason to go and see the exhibition. You can see something, and you see something, and you don't get it. Okay, everybody in this room thinks that they're really smart. They will eventually get it. But you don't get it for that moment, and you have to stand still, and you have to think, in fact, how does this relate to me? The minute you do that, you've made a metaphor. If the artist hasn't told you, and there have been very great artists who got this one fucked up, like Weiner, stand 4.5 feet from the canvas. The canvas has to be the size of a person's arms. It was him. What happens if your eyes can't see well at 4.5 feet, but they can see well at 6 feet? Why do this? You stand there and you try to put yourself in, what is this going to do for me? We're all totally opportunistic. I'm opportunistic every time I start a series of work. I want something that gives me far more insight into materials that I like than I had. Don't work all the time, but you know, it's at least an aspiration.
Mm-hmm. So your work had always kind of also aesthetical value, and on a certain moment you changed also that aesthetical value to change the type of writing your text, for example. Can you talk about
I'm not sure I know exactly what you mean.
So, for example, that after a while, your work was also considered as aesthetical, as a kind of.
It is aesthetic.
Yes,
there's no dirty word to be aesthetic.
On a certain moment, you changed also.
Changed what?
Yeah, the type.
Oh my God! Are you really thinking that that's an aesthetic change to change the type?
Yes, I thought it was something like that.
Oh, Luke, if you knew how simple it was, the point was that I have not liked Helvetica. I found myself, I never put anything, even occasionally in chalk or something, but a collector who really did like what I did. And I carried around this work in his pocket on a folded piece of paper, which is so he wouldn't get it wrong because English wasn't his first language. And he didn't want to have to explain to everybody what it meant because that would be against the reason that he liked the work. And he once wrote a letter, he wrote a letter and asked if it was possible, I hadn't met him yet, if he asked if it was possible to have it painted by his architect on the wall or something. And I guess I saw photographs or I saw something. Oh, what a great idea, why not? And the next show I made was in Milan, where this man was. And we hired professional sign painters and we put it up on the wall. Mm-hmm. That's just a way of presenting work to other people instead of like having to find an index card or find something else or see a book. I didn't like Helvetica, and all of the smart artists I knew were using Helvetica because they thought it made them look intelligent. No, it's like the fashion victim kind of thing. It's like men who really shouldn't wearing Armani. You don't work. So I tried to find, and I don't like serifs very much, so I tried to find a sans serif face. And there was one that you could buy in all of the little shops, and the letters in those days were just press type and single letters. It was Franklin Gothic extravagant. Somebody had designed a very nice typeface, and I used it. I thought this was putting the work out in a very proper manner, and it was like leaving it open for other people. After a certain amount of years, I was a little more successful than I thought I'd be, getting the work out in the world, and anybody that used Franklin Gothic, they all thought it was me. It became this thing that Franklin Gothic extra condensed was an aesthetic. It meant something. No, it was what the word said that meant something. So I looked around and I looked around, and I had a nice assistant at the time who loved to play on the computer, and I asked her to please find another typeface to do it. There's thousands and thousands. And we looked, I think, for over 6 months, 8 months looking. One day she said, Lawrence, I found something because I was looking for a stencil font. And she said, this is nice, paint it. And I looked at everything and I saw all the little symbols and what they had done. And they had done a good job. We purchased it, it's very easy by the rights to use it, and you pay the money. It's not very much. And that was FF offline. And 3 years later, there wasn't one advertisement that came out in the mail. Everybody acknowledged that it was looking like me. There was no problem, but they already changed. I went from, 501 jeans to carpenter pants, just like that.